Well, let's go back to the beginning. We're absolutely certain now, I think, that Malaysian Airlines have lost contact with MH17. That's their Malaysian Airlines flight, a Boeing 777 from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. They've confirmed that, and both aviation sources within Russia and now within the the Ukrainian Interior Ministry, say that the plane, which was flying through an international corridor at 10,000 meters, suddenly descended and appears to have crashed about 50 kilometers on the Ukrainian side of the Ukrainian-Russian border. Perhaps most alarming of all in the last few minutes, an advisor to the Interior Minister, Anton Gerashenko, has been saying on his Facebook page that he believes that the plane was shot down by a Buk missile launcher, B-U-K, Buk missile launcher. And by chance, the Associated Press, the American news agency, saw exactly such a launcher in rebel hands in Snezhnye earlier today, and the rebels were claiming to news agencies earlier today that they'd shot down a plane today. At that point, of course, everyone was assuming it was another Ukrainian military aircraft. So if you follow all that through, there is now a real chance that a sophisticated surface-to-air missile launcher in the hands of the rebels may have been responsible for this crash. But of course, there's a lot of ifs in that chain. It may be a normal, as it were, airline crash, a normal airline accident, a problem with the Malaysian Airlines plane. Equally, it could have been that the Ukrainians, angry with the problems they've been having this week with planes being shot down, might have made a mistake. But certainly, I think a lot of the attention at the moment is on the possibility that this plane was shot down by rebels in eastern Ukraine, believing it to be a Ukrainian military aircraft.
And Daniel, of course, over the last few months, as the international community has watched events on the ground, there has been increasing concern and alarm at events. And if what you have just said turns out to be what has happened here, is it possible to take us through the possible ramifications?
Well, if indeed it's a weaponry that was in the hands of the rebels, then I think the finger pointing will very quickly move away from the rebels, who are a fairly poorly trained military group, and towards who may have supplied the weaponry to the rebels. And of course, the allegation, not just by the government in Kiev, but also by NATO, by Western governments and by the American government, has been that the rebels have been getting hold of increasingly sophisticated weaponry across the border from Russia. Nobody's been able to establish how it is they've been able to buy or be supplied that equipment, and exactly what the route is and what link there may or may not be between that supply of weapons and the Russian government itself. But the plea that has been coming from both Kiev and from Western governments to the Russian government in recent weeks is, please stop this supply of increasingly sophisticated military equipment across the border into eastern Ukraine. And so, of course, if it turns out that one of those sophisticated bits of military hardware has now been responsible for the loss of 295 lives on a civilian airliner, the finger pointing will very, very quickly end up at the